The potatoes in your kitchen right now have about 9 days left in them. My grandmother kept hers 8 months. Not in a refrigerator, not in a freezer, not in anything that plugged into a wall, in a wooden crate, in a hole dug into the side of a hill, in the dark. And when she carried them up those steps in June, they were as firm as the day they came out of the ground. You are going to throw away close to a third of the potatoes you buy this year. That is not a guess about you personally. That is the number for this country. Billions of pounds of food grown by somebody, hauled by somebody, paid for by you, going soft in a bag under a sink. And the reason has almost nothing to do with the potato. It has everything to do with 2 weeks of work that nobody performed on it, 2 weeks that cost nothing, 2 weeks that were standard practice on every farm in America for 300 years, and that not one person in 1,000 does today. I grew up on a place my family has worked since before the First World War. We had a cellar dug into the north slope behind the house, stone-lined, wooden door, dirt floor. My grandfather could tell you the temperature in that room on any day of the year without looking at a thermometer, because it was the same on every day of the year. 38 degrees. 38 in January with the wind coming across the field hard enough to knock a man down. 38 in August with the corn standing still in the heat. We put up 300 pounds of potatoes in that cellar every October. We ate the last of them in June. We never lost a crate. I want to tell you exactly how that was done because it is not complicated, it is not expensive, and there is no part of it you cannot do this week in a basement corner or a crawl space or an unheated closet on the north side of your house. But I also want to tell you the part that should bother you. None of this was ever a secret. It was printed in government bulletins and mailed free to anybody who asked for it. Your great-grandmother had the pamphlet in a kitchen drawer, and somewhere between her kitchen and yours, it simply stopped being handed down because a machine showed up that seemed to make it unnecessary. It did not. By the end of this, you will know the one step that makes the difference between 6 weeks and 8 months. You will know why your refrigerator is the worst place in your house for a potato, and you will know what $4 at the hardware store buys you. Stay with me. The first thing you have to understand is that a root cellar is not a cold room. Everybody gets this wrong. People hear the word cellar and they picture a refrigerator in the ground and they assume the whole point is to get the temperature as low as possible without freezing. That is not the point. That was never the point. A root cellar is a machine with 4 settings, and temperature is only one of them. The other 3 are humidity, darkness, and moving air. Get the temperature perfect and the other 3 wrong, and your potatoes will sprout, shrivel, turn green, and rot in that order, and you will blame the potato. Here is what a potato actually is. It is not a seed, and it is not a fruit. It is a swollen underground stem, and it is alive. It is breathing right now in that bag on your counter, pulling in oxygen and giving off carbon dioxide, water vapor, and a small amount of heat. It will do that for as long as it stays alive. A dormant living potato keeps, a dead one rots. Your entire job in storage is to slow that breathing down as far as it will go without ever stopping it, and to keep that potato convinced that spring has not arrived yet. Everything the old sellers did was aimed at that one thing, 38 to 40 degrees, because much below that the starch inside starts converting to sugar, and the potato goes sweet and turns dark in a skillet. Much above 50 and it wakes up and sprouts. 90% humidity because a potato is around 80% water, and dry air pulls that water out through the skin until it goes rubbery in your hand. Total darkness, and I mean total, because light triggers the potato to produce a compound that turns the skin green and makes it genuinely poisonous. That green is not a bruise, that is a warning, and your grandmother knew to cut it out deep or throw the potato to the hogs. And moving air. Slow moving air. Because the heat and moisture and carbon dioxide that potato gives off have to have somewhere to go. 4 settings: temperature, humidity, darkness, air. Now here is where the old builders were smarter than anybody gives them credit for. A proper hillside cellar had 2 pipes in it, and I want you to picture this, because it explains everything. One pipe came in low, down near the floor from the outside. The other went out high, through the roof of the cellar, standing up above the ground with a cap on top of it. That is it. 2 pipes. No fan, no power, no motor, nothing that could ever break. Cold air is heavy. Warm air is light. The air inside that cellar picks up heat and moisture, and carbon dioxide from 300 pounds of breathing potatoes gets lighter, rises, and leaves through the high pipe. And the instant it leaves, it pulls cold outside air in through the low pipe to take its place. The whole room turns itself over slowly, all winter long, driven by nothing but the difference in weight between warm air and cold air. The engineers have a name for it. They call it buoyancy-driven ventilation. The men who dug those cellars just called it putting the pipes in right. And on the coldest nights, my grandfather would walk out with a lantern and slide a wooden plug halfway into the low pipe. Not all the way. Halfway. That was the thermostat. A block of wood and a man who knew what the weather was doing. Now, you're probably not going to dig a cellar into a hillside this weekend. I know that. And it is not what I'm going to ask you to do, because the hillside and the pipes are not the part that matters most. Here is the part that matters most, and this is the thing that almost nobody does anymore. Before a potato goes into storage, it has to be cured. Curing is 2 weeks. That is all it is. 2 weeks in the dark at somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees with high humidity and a little bit of air movement. Not cold, warmer than storage, and this is the step everybody skips because it feels backwards. You just dug them, you want them cold, you want them safe, so you put them straight into the cold, and you have just guaranteed you will be throwing them out by Thanksgiving. Here is what those 2 weeks actually do. Every potato that comes out of the ground has damage on it, scrapes from the fork, bruises from the crate, nicks you cannot even see. Every one of those is an open door for the bacteria and mold that cause rot. During curing, the potato heals itself, and it lays down a new layer of corky tissue underneath every wound and seals it shut from the inside. And the skin thickens and sets at the same time, which is why a cured potato feels different in your hand. You cannot rub the skin off with your thumb, and that thick set skin is what holds the water in for the next 8 months. 2 weeks, no equipment, no cost, a cardboard box in a spare room with a towel laid over the top and the door shut will do it. An uncured potato in a perfect cellar goes 6 to 8 weeks. A cured potato in a mediocre basement goes past Easter. It is the single biggest difference in the entire operation. It is free, and it is the reason your great-grandmother's potatoes lasted, and the ones in that plastic bag do not. The ones in the bag were washed, brushed, waxed, bagged, and trucked while they were still raw. Nobody ever let them heal. Before I give you the second half of this, do me one favor, tap that like button. It costs you nothing, and it is the only reason a video like this gets shown to the people who actually need it instead of getting buried. There are folks watching right now with a perfectly good crawl space under the house and no idea what it is worth. Help me put this in front of them. Then comes the second half. And this is the $4. And after curing, you bed them in sand. A bag of plain builder's sand or play sand at any hardware store runs $3 or $4 and will fill 2 crates. You dampen it. Not wet. Damp, like garden soil after a light rain where you can squeeze a handful and it holds its shape but does not drip. You put an inch of it in the bottom of a wooden crate, lay in a single layer of potatoes with none of them touching each other, cover them over, and repeat until the crate is full. That sand does 4 jobs at once. It holds humidity right around each potato so it never dries out. It blocks every last bit of light. It keeps the potatoes from touching, so if one goes bad, it cannot hand it to its neighbors. And it steadies the temperature because damp sand is thermal mass, and thermal mass does not care what the weather did last night. Sawdust works. Wood shavings work. Dry leaves work in a pinch. Sand is the best of them, and it is the cheapest. So let me give it to you in order. Step 1. Do not wash them. This is the rule people break first, and it ruins more stored food than everything else combined. Water is what mold needs to get started. Brush the loose dirt off with your hand or a dry rag and leave the rest of it alone. Dirt on a potato is not a problem. Dirt on a potato is protection. You wash it the day you cook it, not the day you store it. Step 2. Cure them. 2 weeks dark around 55 degrees with a cloth over the box so it can breathe but no light gets in. And while you are at it, sort them. Any potato with a soft spot, a deep cut, or a spot of rot does not go in the crate. You eat that one this week. One bad potato in a closed crate will take the whole crate, it will do it fast, and you will not smell it until it has already happened. Step 3. Bed them in damp sand in a wooden crate and put that crate in the coldest dark place you have that stays above freezing. A basement corner against the north foundation wall, a crawl space, an unheated closet on the north side, a detached garage if your winters are mild. Then buy a $2 thermometer and set it right on top of the crate. You are aiming for 40 degrees. 45 is fine, 50 is workable, 60 is a problem, and one more rule that costs nothing and saves everything. Keep the apples somewhere else. Apples give off ethylene gas as they ripen, and ethylene tells a potato that spring has arrived. Keep the onions somewhere else too. Onions want dry air, potatoes want damp air, and if you put them in together, you get sprouted onions and rotted potatoes. Every old cellar kept them separated by a wall or a room. There was a reason for it. That is the whole method. And if it is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe before you go because I put one of these out every week. All of it the same. Work people did with their own hands back before somebody talked them into believing they needed a machine for it. That button is right there. Now, the part that goes against everything you have been told, do not put potatoes in the refrigerator. Everything else in your kitchen goes in the refrigerator, so this feels wrong. But a refrigerator runs around 35 to 38 degrees, and it runs dry, because pulling moisture out of the air is exactly what it is built to do. That is cold enough to start converting the starch inside the potato into sugar. Your potato goes sweet, it goes gritty, and when you fry it, it turns dark brown and bitter because all that sugar is hitting the heat. Ask anybody who has fried potatoes for a living, and they will tell you the same thing. And the plastic bag it came home in is the second half of the same mistake. Plastic traps the moisture that potato is breathing out and holds it right up against the skin. That is a mold farm. Every potato you have ever pulled out of a bag with a wet spot and a smell was killed by that bag. Not by time. Cold, dry, and sealed is the exact opposite of what a potato wants. It wants cool, damp, dark, and breathing. Your refrigerator gives you two of the four, and it gives you the wrong two. I was sent down into our cellar most evenings from about the time I was 6 years old. Steep stone steps, one lantern, and a smell I can put myself back inside of right now. Cold earth, vinegar, apples, and dust. Mason, jars on the shelves catching the light, cabbages hanging from the joists, and the potato crates along the back wall where the stones stayed coldest. My grandmother would tell me how many to bring up, and I would count them out in the dark and then come back up those steps considerably faster than I went down because I was certain something lived down there. Every farm kid was. What I did not understand until I was a grown man is what that room actually was. That was not a closet. That was the family's bank account. Everything on those shelves was a day of somebody's labor in July converted into a hot meal in February. Nobody in that house was ever going to go hungry over a bad week or a lost job or a storm that closed the roads, and the reason was a hole in a hillside and a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. You can rebuild a small piece of that in the corner of your basement for the price of a bag of sand. Now let me answer the three things people always ask me. The first one is mold. If you keep it damp, will you not get mold? No, and here is why. Mold needs standing water and still air. Damp sand is not standing water, and a crate with slatted sides is not still air. What causes mold in storage is a plastic bag, a washed potato, or a sealed bin with no way for the moisture to get out. Damp and ventilated is the safe combination. Wet and sealed is the dangerous one. Those two things are not the same, and people mix them up constantly. The second one is freezing. If it is out in a crawl space, will it not freeze? A potato freezes at right around 30 degrees, and a frozen potato turns to mush the moment it thaws. So put the thermometer out there before you put the crate out there. If that space is dropping below 35 on a cold night, throw an old wool blanket over the crate or move it against whichever foundation wall is closest to the heated part of the house. Stone and concrete hold heat. That is exactly why the old cellars were stone-lined and dug into the earth, and the ground itself was the heater. The third one is the question I hear the most. Somebody tells me they do not have a cellar. Slab house, no basement, nothing underground at all. Fine. Then you use the north wall of a garage, or a shaded shed, or a cooler with the lid propped open in an unheated back room. Will that hold 8 months? No, it might hold 4. 4 months is still 120 days of food you paid for and did not put in the trash. Do not let perfect stop you from doing the thing that works. An old man in our township said something to me at a farm sale years back that I have never been able to shake. He was in his 90s, and we were standing there watching people bid on crocks and lanterns and mason jars, buying them to put on a shelf. And he said, "They are not buying the jar. They are buying the feeling of the jar. A jar is only worth something if it has got beans in it, and you know how to put them there." He was right, and it goes a long way past jars. A skill you admire is a decoration. A skill you use is security. And every one of these things, the cellar, the curing, the sand, the 2 pipes, was worked out by people with no safety net underneath them, who therefore could not afford to be wrong about anything. And they were not poor because they lived that way. They lived that way, and that is why they were never desperate. One last thing before I let you go, and this is the important one. Hit the notification bell. Not the like, not the subscribe, the bell. Because of the way this all works now, subscribing does not actually mean you will ever see the next one. The bell does. And the next one coming is the piece of this that will not fit in the corner of a basement. How a proper hillside cellar holds 54 degrees in August and 38 in January using nothing but the slope of the ground, a double door, and 8 feet of dirt. No insulation, no machinery, no power. I am going to show you exactly how that door was built because the door is the whole thing and almost every modern attempt gets the door wrong. So here is what I want from you tonight. Go find the coldest dark corner in your house, a basement wall, a crawl space hatch, the back of a closet on the north side. Set a thermometer there, leave it overnight, and tell me in the comments what it read and what state you were in. I read every one of them. People tell me things about their own houses that I never would have guessed, and half the ideas in these videos came straight out of that comment section. You were never told any of this. I do not think that was an accident, but I also do not think anybody ever sat in a room and planned it. It just was not profitable for anyone to tell you there is no company on this earth that makes money selling you a bag of sand and a wooden box. The people who built this country knew how to hold on to what they grew. That knowledge is still here. It is written down. It is not hard. It is just sitting there waiting for somebody to use it again. I will see you in the next one.